Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that wants to remind everyone that there is no stronger bond than a woman and her Tupperware. Miss Dale.
That's right, even if it is spaghetti colored.
Yep. You got to have your storage bowls, dude.
That's right.
Yeah.
And was that you that had come up with the great idea to go ahead and make them stained, pre-stained?
Pre-stained, yeah.
Come spaghetti colored?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to worry about them.
That's right. It's already taken care of.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't have to throw them out all the time. You're in there washing it for 3 days and it's still same color.
Soak them and everything is still spaghetti stained.
Yeah, you don't want to take out to the family dinner.
No, if they're already pre-stained, you're good to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't look like you're carrying around a bowl of mud.
Bowl of mud. Oh, man. I swear, there was never blood in this bowl, I promise.
Never.
Yeah, who keeps a bowl of blood in the refrigerator?
I just happen to have one.
Yeah. What's going on, dude?
Oh, same old, brother. You know how it is.
I know how it is.
Starting our mini vacation.
Yeah, we like our mini vacations, don't we?
Yeah.
That's right.
Take a shot when you can.
Yeah, we take a shot whenever we can. Shot of something or
That's right.
shot at somebody.
Shot at or shot of.
Yeah.
Whichever one, we'll take it.
Yeah, you can't get shout outs, bud.
We do, man. We'll give a little shout out to one of our friends, old Curtis over there that runs the North Carolina Everything podcast. And if you haven't listened to this, you're really missing out. It's we kind of run across it doing some research, man, and his podcast is really great, especially for if you're North Carolina native or if you're interested in stuff going around in the state and history. It's really, really cool. And I think you guys should check it out.
Yeah, we found it accidentally.
Yeah, we're doing research for it.
And I mean, I'm addicted to this guy's podcast now.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, he's just so laid back and
so informative, man. It's
yeah.
like stuff that you thought you knew about the state. You don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing a hell of a job.
All of our North Carolina people, just check him out.
Yeah, check it out.
We'll put a link in our show notes for him.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't know if he listens to us, but we certainly listen to Curtis on North Carolina Everything podcast.
And we'd also like to give a shout out to our old friend Chris Waynick. Chris, man, you're amazing. We really appreciate you dropping in and dropping a few dollars in the gas jar. Thanks so much.
Yep, helping to keep the lights on.
You're a hell of a dude, man.
Yeah,
you're like fan of the year or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, though, really, seriously. Though, we do appreciate everything you do, man.
If anybody else wants to be like Chris Waynick and go to the webpage and drop some money in the gas bucket, you sure can.
That's right. We'll take it.
It helps keep the lights on, man.
I'm telling you, this ain't free to do.
No, it ain't. It costs. Or if you want to go to the store page and get you something, it helps too.
Yeah, and you need to look really good.
And if you don't want to buy anything, if you just want to tell somebody about us, that helps a lot too.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
That word of mouth stuff
Word
works.
of mouth, yeah.
It works great.
You can drop a 5-star in the 5-star bucket if you want.
In the 5-star bucket, next to the gas bucket, but don't mix 5 stars with gas.
Yeah, don't.
They don't mix.
They don't work good. What's going on, man? What we got going on today?
We have got an interesting story today. We covered the case of Deorr Kunz back on episode 40.
Yeah, then would it be 110 episodes ago?
Wow.
Because guess what? This is number 150.
150. But like I said...
Congrats, buddy.
Yeah, congrats to you. But we covered Deorr Kunz back on episode 40.
Yep.
And his little boy missing from Idaho went camping with his parents and his great-grandfather and a friend of his grandfather. And he went missing on this camping trip.
Right.
And we highly recommend that you go back and listen to episode 40 before you listen to this one if you hadn't already listened to it, if you're not familiar with the case.
Or if you hadn't listened to it in a while, go check it out again.
Because today we are so happy to have on the show a lady by the name of Callie Ann Pearson.
Yes.
She runs the website justiceforbabydeorr.com.
She does a hell of a lot more than that, doesn't she?
Yeah, she is a go-getter, man. She's helped solve some cases. She's an advocate for missing people. She's an advocate for Deorr Kunz. And she has done some legwork on this kid, man.
Yes.
And we are so pleased to have her on the show today and talk to us about her research on Deorr Kunz.
Yeah, and what's going on is going to be great.
Yep. Welcome to the show, Callie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We are glad to have you. We're glad to have somebody that knows a little bit more about Deorr and can answer some questions for us. And that, like we said, that's our goal, to keep him in the spotlight and to keep his name out there for people to keep looking for baby Deorr.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us, before we get started, tell us a little bit about you and what got you into looking for Deorr Kunz.
Well, I started kind of, the very first day that he was reported missing. I have a child the same age as him, and so when I seen the breaking news, it caught my attention, and I was worried. I see a lot of cases out there, but for some reason this one just grabbed at my heartstrings because I was able to identify with that age, and thinking that he was lost in the woods and cold and hungry and just crying, and oh man, I just kind of I tuned in for every little update, and there wasn't really much going on except all these searches. And it wasn't really until Monday, the following Monday, when the parents came down to town to do an interview with Nate Eaton, to let everybody know kind of the status of what's going on. For some reason that interview threw me off. I'm not claiming that I'm psychic or anything, but my intuition was just telling me something was off, and I just didn't believe that we were really looking for a missing child anymore. And so I stayed tuned in, and it really wasn't until 2017 that I started to speak publicly and get a little bit more involved. And the reason why I did such is because I do have research skills. I have been reuniting family and friends for over 20 years,
Wow.
and I have a 99%, a rate of that. And I just felt like maybe I can dig and see what's going on. And I've uncovered a lot. I've had conversations with family members. I've had conversations with, anytime I have a question, I'm very, very polite, and I ask, the right people for the answers versus asking the public, because the public is not where you go for all of your answers. You need to get them from the right sources. And
I agree.
Throughout all these years, talking to, some family members, the father himself, talking to the PIs, let's see, just anything and everything. And it paints a huge picture, and it paints a picture that the parents know more. And with that, I've also have shut down puppy mills in my past. I have locked up some pedophiles. I've locked up some pretty bad people. Now, I'm not in charge of locking people up, and never anything like that is really like my goal, is locking people up. But to get justice is where I stand. And I feel justice is definitely needed in Deorr's case. It's the most baffling case I have ever seen and witnessed. And knowing everything that I do know, I cannot go away.
Yeah.
I'll be here till the end. I created the website specifically because people will come to me and ask questions, certain questions, something that I may know. And I felt like Facebook was the only one holding all of that, information that people were requesting, such as statements or, screenshots. So I created the website so it can all be in one place. So if people don't have this 7.5-year scroll, it is literally all in one place.
Well, it's a pretty impressive website, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's taken a long time, and I still add to it. So, and I try to keep it factual. Like, everything in there is facts. You can kind of see that it's leaning on the parents being guilty, and that might have a little bit of a bias, to it. I do believe the parents are guilty. However, I believe the site is really important to keep factual, because there are a lot of people who will come in, and I think it's important that they make up their own minds. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do my best to keep the bias part out of there, and just put all the things that are out there on this case into one spot, including, latest updates, and stuff like that, and all of the discrepancies that have been mentioned, timelines, all the news stations that have covered his case. I like to put all the links on that in there. just everything that I can imagine. It sits in that website. So it's a very handy website for those who want to know more about his case.
We're glad we have you on the show, Daddy. Give us a little bit more perspective on this because, Deorr went missing on July 10th of 2015. That was the day they went on this camping trip. What?
They went on the day before.
What inspired them to take this camping trip? Was it a last-minute thing?
There's a couple of stories that revolve around that answer, and they all come from the family themselves. Sometimes it's the last minute. Sometimes it was planned a week prior. Just a little example of story changing there. So no one really knows if it was last minute or if it was a week prior. The story is to say that it was Grandpa's idea to go up there, and Grandpa is Jessica's grandpa, and that would be Deorr's great-grandfather. It supposedly was his, last will to go up there and be in his, his zone that he has been there before. However, Jessica's reason for being there is that she's his caretaker. Well, he doesn't need a caretaker to take him to the camping. He does this stuff on his own, and he's done it after him and Isaac actually went on a fishing trip, hours away from their home, all by themselves. Grandpa was capable of driving. His daughter even said that he had like a 98% memory rate. And Isaac seemed like he was confused about Grandpa being on oxygen after all of this stuff. So it's like, what was really the position of Grandpa, and was it really his choice of going there? And if it was, why did he really need all of those people to join him? So yeah, that's the reason for the camping trip. And last minute or a week prior, it's kind of up in the air on that.
What is the whole Grandpa and Isaac connection? What is up with them?
Well, they were neighbors, and I believe that they went to AA together as well. And because they were next door neighbors, at some point Isaac was doing some lawn work for him, and they became kind of, pals of some sort. I don't think that they were 100% too close, but I do believe that they were good fishing buddies and did some, outdoorsy stuff together, and kind of just kept it on that level.
Because it's been reported they'd only known each other just a little while before this camping trip was planned.
Well, Isaac and Grandpa had known each other for about 5 years.
Oh, really?
Prior.
Okay.
Yeah. What was not known is that Isaac and the parents of Deorr have never met before.
Okay.
And it was the day of the camping trip that they had met him.
That's just so odd that, Jessica would be his caretaker, and they were neighbors, but Jessica had never met Isaac before. I always found that kind of strange. It
is very strange, yes.
Yeah.
And I think by the time this camping trip happened, Grandpa had moved away from Isaac's home and moved into Trina's house, which is his daughter. And so, I also found out kind of that, Jessica had just started watching Grandpa. It wasn't a 6-month thing, according to some good sources that I have. And you're right. Like, why would Jessica not have ever heard of him before if this is the only person that he hung out with?
Exactly.
Right, yeah. Yeah, 6 months is what we had heard too. Yeah. So that's not true, huh?
Yeah. It's enough time for someone to at least heard about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they go on this camping trip, and they're in separate vehicles. I think Vernal and Jessica are in a vehicle, and Grandpa and Isaac are in a separate vehicle.
Yes, Isaac and Grandpa were in the Suburban. Grandpa was driving, and they had the trailer behind them, and then you have Jessica, Vernal, and Deorr in the truck. And at some point along the way, and I don't recall them ever getting gas on the way up there. I could be missing something. I'm willing to admit that. But to my knowledge, they didn't get gas anywhere on the way up there. But they did pull over for some snacks. And at some point, they also had to pull over due to the swaying of the camper on the back of the Suburban. And then they had to switch it to the truck. And then eventually, again, switch it back to the Suburban. So according to Vernal, Jessica had packed the camper incorrectly and put everything towards the back, so they had to rearrange everything and on the way up there. And this is pretty late, I calculated that they didn't really leave town till about 7:30. So this is nighttime.
And it's
on
about
their way up there.
About a 2.5-hour trip to the campsite, Timber Creek campsite. Yeah.
Yes.
So I imagine they didn't get there till dark or just right before dark.
It was like what, 9:30?
Yeah, it was about 9:30 that they actually got to the campground, according to their statements.
Yeah.
So that's pretty late. I mean, I actually did the same thing once. I went really late because it was the schedule of everybody, But so because I guess it can happen, but it was kind of unusual, and I think the reason why it was a lot later, according to their statements, Grandpa wanted to make sure that Isaac showed up and that Isaac was coming. They went to Isaac's house about 4 to 5 times just to get him, and it was on the last time that they showed up at his house that he was there. You would think that if you're planning on going camping, you would be 100% available and ready.
Yeah, right.
Well, now
but it kind of seemed like it caught him by surprise.
Well, now Isaac, he was a little mentally challenged, correct?
A little bit, according to law enforcement. He had a bump on the head at some point, and brain injury.
Yeah.
So he's not all there, but I think he's enough there to, enjoy himself.
Yeah. Especially, tell him we're going to be leaving at a certain time to go on a camping trip to be ready or something. Let somebody know something.
At least most of the day ready,
Yeah.
So they arrive at Timber Creek pretty late, and I think they go to bed pretty immediately once they get there. I think
that's what they say.
Yeah, Vernal and Jessica slept in a truck, and I think Grandpa slept in the camper.
Yeah. It during supposedly when they got there, they unhooked the Suburban from the camper so that way it's not moving and stuff. And I was just trying to think of where those situations were. Mom, Dad, and Deorr stayed in the back of the Suburban, and Grandpa did sleep in the camper, and Isaac slept in a tent. However, they supposedly went to bed pretty soon after, and I think Grandpa and Isaac went to bed first, and the remaining 3 stayed by the fire looking at the stars, according to Jessica's statement. But there is a screenshot of Jess herself stating that at late Thursday night, early Friday morning, kind of puts you around midnight, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Isaac was complaining about Deorr being on the camping trip because he had fallen down. So there is a fall down, a fall mentioned by Jess, but her timeline of it being so late / early doesn't really match the sleeping arrangements.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So lead us into the next morning on July 10th. They get up. What happens when they get up?
Some pretty funky things.
Yeah. That's why I want you to sort of go through that for us.
Yeah. Okay, so 8 o'clock in the morning, Jessica writes that she's, everybody was up and Vernal was the last one to be up about 8 in the morning. Then, but prior to, I guess, waking up, Isaac supposedly went over to the window and was banging on it, saying, "Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey." I can't see him doing that. But they all I guess they were annoyed. They got up. Vernal got up last, and then I guess everybody was already sitting by the fire, according to Vernal, and breakfast was kind of being made, and Vernal says he was making breakfast and trying to keep Jessica to keep Deorr away from the fire, and Jessica says she was making breakfast and tried to tell Vernal to keep Deorr away from the fire. Isaac doesn't remember having breakfast. It's weird. And so at some point, Vernal claims that he was working on his vehicle, probably around 10 o'clock is what he said to Klein. And then there was a tampon story. So now Jessica feels like she's on her period. She needs to get to town really quickly, like ASAP, and is told to be back by 2 different times, 11 or 1 o'clock. And so they rushed to town. Isaac's just now getting up, supposedly. His story really kind of doesn't always stay the same. He's either sleeping or he's fishing. So
now this trip to town is not an easy trip.
No.
Coming out
no,
of
it's a
like a
it's like a
7-mile dirt ride,
9-mile trip, to the from town to the thing. It's like 7 miles, but it takes about approximately 40 minutes to drive that whole road because it's so bumpy. And so they get to town to go do their thing. However, when they stopped at the stores, they didn't go in to get tampons. They went and asked where they can get gas. And so they traveled all over town. Supposedly they got lost trying to find this diesel stuff. They got gas, and then they went back to the store and was able to purchase tampons on 2 different receipts, though. So there's 2 receipts that are like 10, 15 minutes apart from each other. So they eventually, got their stuff, and they headed back, and that was about 12:30, I think, in the afternoon, that they had headed back to the camp. And when they headed back to the camp, there's 2 stories of Isaac and Grandpa pulling into the campground at the same time in the Suburban. And there's also a story of them sitting by the fire when the parents come back. Either way, there's supposedly fish that they had caught, that Grandpa and Isaac had caught, little minnows or good sized little fish, but there's no fish out there. So so Grandpa supposedly told Isaac to go show Vernal and Jessica where the fish were, because Vernal didn't believe him. And it's kind of where it all supposedly started. Isaac and Grandpa was asked to watch Deorr. Isaac and the parents went down to the creek, and then from that point on, Deorr's lost. Yeah. But that's the original story.
Okay, I want to ask you this one thing. They went to town to get tampons, okay? Now, I've never been a woman, and I don't plan to be a woman, but, if a women who are, I guess, thinking
in need,
thinking it's close to time for their period, would they not carry that stuff with them? Just to be prepared,
right? Yeah, I'm a woman, and I plan on staying a woman. Yeah. I personally think that I give her a little slack on that, because what if you just didn't know, you didn't remember, you were in a hurry, you packed, and you're there. Okay, so maybe she didn't have any, but if you went to the store first to talk about gas, you're going to go get tampons now.
Right. That's what always got me. I'm like, wait a damn minute. If they were going to go get them, he's not going to drive her around this long and go to these different places and not get those first.
Yeah, exactly. Not travel around town for an hour and claiming that they got lost in a town that has like 10 buildings.
Right.
Yeah, Ledore's not a big town at all.
Right.
No, not at all. No. It's like 100 people all together, and they're spread out.
Which there's a whole lot of head scratching in this story, but we're fixing to get into it, I guess. But that one always bothered me, that they went to town just for that reason, and to get him some gas, of course. And then they don't, and it's like, wait, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder, why are they on 2 different receipts? I mean, they're different kinds of tampons. So maybe the store only had 1 box of this and 1 box of that. But why are they on 2 different receipts? It's confusing. I don't understand that. And I know that Klein had gone down to the store to obtain all the previous receipts that were done that day. Whether you paid in cash or whether you paid in a credit card, there's receipts. And so there was only 2 that were found, and they were starting from like 12 to 12:30. That you have, the story is really weird. You have Jessica writing her mom, telling her she's out of tampons and needs tampons. And then you have her rewriting her mom, telling her that she got the tampons. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't call my mom to let her know I'm on my period at all.
I definitely wouldn't.
Especially to let her know that I finally got them. Yeah. For me, personally, I feel that it was like a code conversation. Like, be prepared. I'm heading down to the store. Hey, we're on our way back, kind of thing. That's my opinion. I can't state that as a fact. So yeah, there's that, and the amount of gas that they got was more than usual. And while they were in town, you guys obviously know that the stories have changed as far as who's seen them and who hasn't.
Exactly.
The beer truck guy.
Yeah, the beer truck guy who parked in the back, not the front, and
Yeah.
he's not allowed to have kids in his vehicle.
Yeah.
And it's not even the right kind of beer company. And then you have the store owner, which, you know, I don't really find her as credible as some people would. She is a sex offender, and she is accused of, like, I don't want to say pimping, but she sold her daughter, you know, for at the age of 14, you know, for those kind of things,
Oh, wow.
back in 1998. And she's also recently, in the last 3 years, have been busted twice for meth. So, you know, how credible is she? I don't know.
Right.
She says she didn't see him, and Jessica says that, you know, he was running around flirting with everybody. Vernal says there was a lot of people in the store. There was not a lot of people in the store. He said that when he was getting gas, that the gas person saw Deorr. The person saw a car seat but didn't see Deorr.
Right.
Vernal calls him a redhead MF. I say redhead MF, so I kind of like cover my little words there. And he was talking to this gas person for like 45 minutes. These are in his words. And then at the store, he also claims that there was a redhead guy there, and that he talked to him for 45 minutes at the store. I don't know how many redheads are in this town, or why he's talking to all these people for 45 minutes.
Yeah, apparently they like to talk a lot, yeah.
Yeah, the timeline doesn't work. It doesn't take 45 minutes to cook JoJo's, and like Klein said, there's just not a lot of people that were there.
Yeah.
So, you know, he did have a best friend with red hair. So, I mean, is he kind of remembering some truth with some lies? That's kind of where I sit.
All right, Callie, take us back to the campsite when Grandpa and Isaac are supposed to be fishing.
Yeah, supposedly. Yeah. So, now you want like when they're pulling up from the campground, or
Yes.
when okay. So, like I said, when the parents are pulling up to the campground, there's two different stories. You got Grandpa and Isaac actually pulling into the campground at the same time. Not sure where they're coming from. That's not stated. And then you also have when the parents are pulling up, that the other two were already sitting at the fire with a little cooler with some fish in a bag. And then, you know, the original story is that, you know, Grandpa is to watch him, and
Right.
the other three disappear. The out of their own words, the original story makes absolutely no sense. It never made sense in the first place.
No.
But it even makes no more sense out of the words that they have. And Jessica kind of threw Vernal under the bus in a private conversation that was recorded with the PI, which is allowed to be recorded, and stated that Vernal actually never went down to the creek with Jessica and Isaac, followed by Isaac claiming that Vernal and Deorr were behind them, and then they weren't. Jessica says that Vernal was actually with Deorr by the truck for 20 minutes, and somewhere in a private conversation, Isaac had claimed that Grandpa was never actually awake in the first place to be asked to watch Deorr, that he was taking a nap in the camper.
Good Lord.
So, yeah, so what it's really painting out to be is that there was an accident in Vernal's care, and it makes so much sense because it's only been noted that he went down the road a couple of times, but the more they kept talking, the more times Vernal is caught going down the road, and this is before, during, and after the 911 call, and it just makes no sense. And he's hauling. When he says hauling, he's a truck driver, so there's a lot of meanings. Is he hauling something, or is he just going really fast?
Right.
Either way, he's not looking for his son on the road with wobbly boots, you know, that fall off all the time.
Right.
And he's 2. You don't do that. You don't go that fast. And, you know, so it just seems like an accident happened. while everybody was busy. And
Yeah, so basically the story was they walked down to go look at the fish, and then when they came back, because the grandpa was going to watch Deorr, and then when they came
yeah,
back, he's gone. That was
yeah,
basically the
exactly.
story, and then all these you got 15 variations of what's happening on top of the story.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. The story's always changing.
right. I was just trying to make it clear for people who don't know the story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it has been it is to me, and the way I can see it, and the way there's several others that can see it, Grandpa was really never in charge. And see, this is what changes the whole case. And not a lot of people are caught up on this. There's audio of them stating all this stuff in their own words, so it ain't coming from me or theories or other people in the public.
right.
It's stating in their own words that this is the new story that they painted for themselves, and it makes a lot more sense because, you know, if there was an accident happening, and no one else knew it but Vernal or whatever, he would be going down the road trying to hide something, and he would continue to go back there to make sure it's hidden. It would make sense if he was the only one that knew that, because if it was a plan to dispose of him or somewhere or something of the sort, the two of them probably would have made sure he was way further than the camp. There would be no reason to go down the road several times. That's my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it matches. But you also have Jessica on 911. You can hear Vernal in the background, but he's supposed to be a mile and a half down the road.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what
You
we're
have
just
Jessica
talking
while
about. Yeah, because like
yeah,
on
yeah,
it,
Jessica, while she's on the phone with 911, she's telling the 911 operator that she is emptying her wet pockets into the truck. At one point, she says she's hopping out of the truck. The truck is nowhere near Jessica at this time. So Vernal's call hasn't not been released to the public, and according to law officials, it's for prosecutional reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to think of everything that I had in there.
Well, I always thought it was really odd of how nonchalant her call is. After for somebody who was supposedly freaking out when they called her mother, and her mother said you need to hang up and call 911, she's not really freaking
Right.
out on that call at all.
Well, they waited a while before they
Right.
called 911, didn't they?
And she actually,
Yeah,
the
from
operator
anywhere from 20
has,
minutes to an hour.
yeah, the operator has to several times try to get her attention, like she's watching somebody do something. It's like, ma'am, are you still there? What's going on? And it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just
yeah, and
really
there were several
strange.
people in the background around her.
Yes.
And she does mention that she made the call, which is kind of weird. And she also says the word Dawn. I'm not sure if it's DAWN or DON. She's referencing somebody. I don't know who that is. Maybe she had called another person. But yeah, when you would think that if why go down the road if 911's already on the phone?
Right.
You don't need to get full bars to go get 911 on the phone. I don't even think that you have to have any bars to get 911 on the phone. As you can clearly hear in her 911 call, the reception doesn't sound very good. So I can see that maybe some more bars would help. But to be
Yeah.
honest, they were already on the phone. There was no need to make a second phone call. And here's the problem with Vernal's phone call. Not only did he go 1.5 miles down the road, 1.5 miles down the road is a cattle guard, and it splits off in like a couple of different areas. And Klein's team of cadaver dogs, so we have Tracy Sargent, who is a cadaver handler, and had Chance, who was used all over the country. He had actually picked up a cadaver scent in that area, and there was also a spot that Klein had found with his team that appeared to have been a dug spot, like someone was trying to dig out a spot to do something with that. He does claim that it's the size of a cooler, like a round, but it doesn't look like that person can get very deep, so it's kind of like maybe a give up situation, like this isn't going to work. So we do have a dug up spot, we do have cadavers sent there, as well as at the campground there's like 4 other spots. And one of those spots is really intriguing. We call it the diaper tree. The night before they went to bed, there is a statement that his diaper was changed and handed to Vernal to put in a grocery bag to tie to a tree branch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Maybe it's a bear thing. I don't know. But that's what they did with that. And then they changed one in the morning. And then, so the next day or the day after, when Trina had come up, she actually threw that diaper away into the trash can, in her own words, and it's never been retrieved. The cadaver dogs, to this day, want to climb that tree. It's something that they've never seen before. Cadaver dogs don't usually climb trees to find a scent, right?
Right,
You know?
yeah.
But it happens to be the exact same tree that the diaper was hanging on. And for the public record, dogs don't hit on dirty diapers. They only hit on death scents.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, to me, proves that there was some sort of death that happened. And you know, and then Trina throwing it away. It's like, was she embarrassed that, you know, she thought, her excuse was that she thought maybe it was her dad's Depends, but you would kind of look in the bag and kind of notice automatically whether it's a Depends or a diaper.
Right.
You know, they are different. So, you know, there's some evidence that was thrown out that probably could have helped. The investigation itself wasn't really looking for a foul play child, you know, situation. They were looking for a missing child. So the whole scene was trampled on with horses and cars and people and kids and all sorts of stuff. So,
Yes.
you know, it was a mess to start with.
Now, you mentioned Deorr was wearing oversized cowboy boots. He loved those boots, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
they looked everywhere for this kid, and they even brought up the idea that he might have been taken by a wild animal, a bear or a lion or
Right.
something,
Lion.
some kind of tiger or something, whatever. We don't have that stuff around here, but, you know, some kind of
No.
big cat.
Yeah. I mean, well, there are lots of cougars out there, you
Okay.
know, and there are bears out there. There's definitely wild animals around.
Those boots would have gotten
But-
dropped.
Oh yeah, at least one of them.
Exactly. You know, well, we actually, I just watched something the other day, and every time I watch something, I find something new. There is actually a video that I just watched, and the mom popped up on the screen, and what she said, specifically on the bottom of the screen, it says, it was definitely not an animal, for sure. And like, you know, so with her stating that,
That's pretty bold.
you almost have to, you almost have to rule it out automatically because the mom said so. And so, yeah, you're right. The oversized boots who came from his older brother are about 2 sizes too big. They are mentioned falling off all the time, and that he's wobbly in them, and that he can barely walk in them. You have several family members that state that. There's no way that he would even wander off even and have those boots still be on him. So an animal picking him up, you know, doing any, you know, there's no way something wouldn't have fallen off of him.
And the whole theory of somebody abducting him and taking him out, this campsite only had one way in and one way out.
Yeah, I don't believe
Absolutely.
that at all. Yeah.
No, and you like some family members say, the where they were camping was right next to the road. You know,
Yeah.
like towards the end of the road, but like right there, and it's so bumpy, it's so loud. You would have seen dust. You would have seen, you know, there's no one that's going to actually sit there and sneak up on that campground expecting a child to be there,
Right.
you know. So there was no one, you know, peering in the bushes, waiting all that time for this child. Like, he just definitely wasn't kidnapped.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Handed off, you know.
Yeah.
I can see that, but definitely not kidnapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, you know, 911 has been called.
It took them an hour and 18 minutes to get
Yeah,
there.
it took 'em a
'cause
while
it's
to get
so far
there.
out into nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first getting there, the authorities get there. What are they looking for? What are they assuming at the time they get there, Callie? When
They are assuming that Deorr has wandered off. They are assuming that he might have fallen in the creek, or that he has fallen in the reservoir. There was cremines spread in the reservoir during the search by some unknown person. I'm told by law enforcement or PIs that person was tracked down and ruled out as something being involved. I don't know that 100%, but I will go with their word. And so there's when they first got there, they brought tracking dogs, not cadaver dogs. They brought tracking dogs. The tracking dogs kept going to the reservoir and back to the truck, back to the reservoir, back to the truck a few times, indicating that something should be looked at more in the reservoir. Therefore, with this person going up there, and I almost want to say it was Saturday that these cremains were put up there. So, was it Friday or Saturday that their dogs were up there? I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do know that the dogs were alerting the back of the truck and alerting to the reservoir, and so both those items were checked into further. But he was nowhere in that reservoir, which is so not deep. You can, it's only a couple feet deep, all the way around. And then you can even see, like, if you were up above it, you can see the whole entire, like, all the water. And they dived that thing for weeks just in case they were missing something. And then they had so many people in that creek. It was kind of a fast running creek, maybe even a little loud, but it wasn't deep. And everything was ruled out. He's not there. He's just nowhere. Horseback ridden up there, nothing. Just no sign of him whatsoever.
Right. When they first got there, they thought they were going to find him in just no time because,
right.
And end up, and then when they discovered they didn't find him, and then volunteers showed up, and they had hundreds of people there just going over everything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it is kind of odd, we do have Sheriff Penner who still goes up there every year to look for him and brings in the National Exploited Children and with their help and their dogs and stuff. But, I like Sheriff Penner. He's really nice. He does a really good job. But I do have to say that, when I talk to him, and I've gotten the Cold Case Foundation involved in the case, I was able to get the grandmother to call them and get their foot in the door. He's not interested in their help. If you know the Cold Case Foundation they're huge, they're free, and they're there to help the family and the case, no matter if what the circumstances is, whether it's foul play or not. They have labs, they have dogs, they have searchers, they have everything you need. They have been turned down. They're still in the case, but they've been turned down. And then prior to that, NecroSearch was offering their help, and that has been turned down. And right now, I'm trying to get EquiSearch up there, and it also has been kind of turned down. So my concern is, if there's belief that he's still up on the mountain, well, why not get all the help that's willing to go out there for free, and not necessarily waste the exploited children's time, where they have a lot more cases that they could probably work on. So with, I don't want to say anything bad about the current sheriff or anything, and because he is really nice and he does do all he can, but I think that there's more that could be done, and with all the help that is out there willing to help, I think that there's nothing to lose, right?
Exactly.
So I'm kind of at a loss with that, and this is, I'm kind of waiting for the case number, and I have to wait for the prosecuting attorney to see if they will release that to the public. And with that case number, I will be giving it to EquiSearch to see if they would still be willing to come up and search some extra grounds,
There's been a couple. There's been a couple private eyes been looking into this. Philip Klein was in on it, and then Frank Viltz. What were their views on this? What were their theories on what happened to Deorr?
Yeah, good question. So Frank Viltz was the first investigator. He was a family friend of the dad's, and so he met Deorr. He's seen him, and he felt a personal connection to the case, and so he said that he will offer his services for free as long as the parents are honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't very long, I think just a month or two into his investigation, where he ended up saying, I can no longer help you. You guys are lying, and you guys are stalling any chance of your child being found. And he wrote up a letter and sent it out. So he also offered $20,000 of his own money and to make this case more national, and it was turned down by the family members with
Which
all
is
sorts of
ridiculous.
excuses. Yeah, yeah. I mean, man, if my kid was missing, you would never hear the end of me.
Right.
But and then then
It's like
Bill
they didn't
Klein
want it to
comes
go
in.
national for some reason, right?
Yeah, they did not want it to go national. I mean, $20,000 of someone's money that's not even yours,
Right.
who is to, that's a reward money to lead someone to wherever he is. It's like, no, they didn't want that, you know. Um, and they said the FBI told them that they didn't want that. FBI doesn't do that. Um, so then that was in 2015, and then in 2016, Klein comes in, and he's the second PI. And at first he was like, hey, whatever we come up with, you may or may not like it. And it eventually turned out to where they didn't like it. Klein had discovered many things because I think he's the first one who had brought up a cadaver dog with Tracy Sargent, and collected a lot more information that pointed to their guilt as well. And from that point on, the parents were not happy with them and eventually tried to sue them for the $20,000 that was raised by the public. And of course they lost, and they kept trying and they kept losing. Klein ended up leaving the case because it was costing too much,
Yeah.
And they had some searches that they had on their list of doing, and I think they were in the process of one already at that point, and they had to drop those searches. And so then he went away, and then you have the third PI, David Marshburn, also kind of hired by the public, but at the same time, we didn't really raise enough money, but he took the case anyways, and eventually sided with the parents. I can't tell you how many people were so confused.
Wow.
I kept thinking, okay, it's a plan. Maybe this is his way of getting info, like
Yeah,
there's
Right.
got to be a plan.
we've covered David Marshman before. We've talked about him on other cases we've done, and he's really slick on some of the things he does.
I mean, I like David Marshburn, but at the same time, I didn't like him in this case. I'll admit
Yeah.
that, because I was like, what?
Yeah.
And so in the back of my mind, while everybody else was kind of hating on him, I kept seeing something different. I'm like, this may be how I would have worked, like, So
Right.
and to that, there's no 100% knowledge on that. However, when he did offer Jessica to do a couple of lives with open-end questions from the public, she did slip out some things. I don't recall what those things were, but I know that I was taking all sorts of notes, and I was able to compare them, and there was a lot of discrepancies. And well, his dog also alerted where Klein's dogs alerted. And he thought that there was going to be something that was going to come more of this bone that was found. I had talked to Penner, and the bone, and I want to say I talked to somebody else as well. The bone was supposedly animal bone, but at the same time, it's not 100%. So what was it? And David Marford never really got his answer. So he kind of faded off the case after that. Him and Klein are not fans. It was very proven over the internet that they were not fans. So it went quiet from there. No PIs, no nothing. And that's when I got the Cold Case Foundation involved, and they have been turned down. So as of last year, I was able to get Klein back on the case. Klein is now back on the case.
Okay.
He
Look at you.
is so we're all kind of, well, not everybody's excited, but I know I'm excited, and I know a lot of people who were relying on Klein to finish what he started is excited for his eventual result. Because the last time Klein was on, it was loud, it was all over the place, it was on the news, it was this and that. Maybe a little bit unprofessionally done, by a PI to get on there and make statements when you should be putting it in your notes instead, and, all that stuff.
Right.
So he's doing things differently this time. He's keeping quiet and to himself, and he was able to get rehired through a good source, and we have been raising money for him. We're halfway there, but at first we weren't sure if he was going to come back without the full funds. But last summer was coming around, and he took the case. He's like, you know what? we can worry about the funds as we go. And the funds are travel funds. So he already started last year. Last year he started doing the reviewing of the case, going through all of the files, going through all the videos and all that. They had finished that process. I'm not 100% sure whether he was actually on the in the area to search. I do know that the searches that he's going to be doing or has already been doing have not been searched by anybody else yet. So he's not on the mountain searching in the same places. He's just doing some extras, and each time that he is going to search, he has dogs with him.
Okay.
And I believe he's using Tracy Sargent again, and it's a different dog but very well trained. Because I'm kind of like in charge of raising the funds with him and kind of keeping the median between him and the case, I'm not really informed on all the things that he's doing because for prosecutional reasons in the future, he doesn't want me to be 100% like this witness kind of thing. So I do know that he's keeping it on the down low what he's doing. I do know of 2 searches that he's doing, and both of those were made public by himself. And one of them is the trash dump, the actual dump where if let's just say the baby was thrown away somewhere up in Deorr, there is ways to figure out where, when, and exactly where in the grid search those dumps would have been dumped. And I think this started somewhere way back in the day when they started finding people in the dump sites, that they started to map these things out to where, if this garbage can was dumped on this day, it means it would have been in, section such and such.
Right.
So,
where is
so I do know that.
What's up with Jessica and Vernal today? What's going on with them today? They're split up, and I think Jessica's remarried.
Yeah, she remarried within 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that they were having affairs around the time that Deorr went missing. With who and how long, I don't know. But they were having affairs. They were constantly fighting. And I don't think they have any conversations with each other, unless it's important. They kind of keep separated. It's, he did his own thing. She does her own thing. He left within 3 months of the reported missing. To my knowledge, from credible sources, he doesn't do anything. He barely does any searches. He doesn't put out flyers. He wasn't helpful in the very beginning whatsoever. Why would he be if he knew what happened?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I do have to say this though. When you do see him cry and the parents do shed tears, I do believe that they're genuine. I do believe that they love their child. And in my opinion, I believe there was an accident. And just because there was an accident doesn't mean it was on purpose or that you didn't love that child anymore. So I do feel like they did lose a child, and they would probably grieve the same as any other person who did lose a child. But when you do go further to the extent of not letting everybody else know where the child is, people do stop feeling sorry for you,
Yeah.
But I do feel that the tears that people do see are genuine.
Just don't know what they're for, right?
Yeah, and it mostly happens when they're asked to say something to their son. Like, what would you say to your son today? And that's when they get emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a twisted case, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of times I even thinking, like, was this kid even there at all,
Yeah, me and Dale talked about this quite a bit. I even told you, me and you talked on the phone last week, and I even brought it up to you. I mean, was Deorr ever there in the campsite?
It's possible he wasn't, There is 2 different lug nut stories that the father had told, and one of those lug nut stories he told to me himself, so I can say I'm a credible witness.
Yeah.
Because I didn't actually get it on any type of recording of anything, I had to create a written sworn statement, and I went and got it notarized. And first I sent it to Klein. Klein sat on it for a couple of years, and I went back and I said, what can I do with my statement? And so he said, make a sworn statement. So I did that, and I handed it to all law enforcement officers. And the difference here is that I already knew one of the stories before I heard the one for myself. Vernal is sitting in a motel room in the corner with Klein and talking about lug nuts, like how baby Deorr was helping him with this truck, and he was walking around and he noticed the lug nut missing on a certain tire, and then he went around and he put his hands in the tailpipe, and then Vernal cleaned him up. And then there's another story that the first time I talked to him, and when I talked to him, I was, trying to do my thing of getting information. So when I talked to him, he started going off about the day that he last saw his kid, and my jaw dropped the second he said that part. And then he went on to saying that he was in his driveway working on his turbo, not his truck turbo, a car turbo, and that Deorr wanted to help him fix the car, and he went over there and accidentally scratched it with a screwdriver. And then he had to repaint that car because, and I think it went from yellow to green. And so after that, Deorr is supposedly walking around the truck counting lug nuts and noticed one was missing on the same tire. And then went around and put his hand in the tailpipe, and Vernal caught him. And instead of Vernal washing him up, he sent him inside for Jess to wash up. So when I already know the first story and I'm hearing this story, I'm like, did you take your car to camp? Like,
yeah, really? Wait a minute.
And it was like, oh, wait, no, that's not what I meant, and it was instantly refabricated and taken back. So, with my past and the way I work, there's no way that you're going to tell me that story and me not go anywhere with that. It makes no sense. Was he in a driveway? Did this happen in a driveway, or did this happen at camp? Is the camping a cover-up? Did it happen along the way? Did it happen after they came back from the store? You have Isaac saying that he saw Deorr after the store. So let's just say Isaac's telling the truth, and that would be around the perfect time for the accident, is when everybody's busy, and Vernal is actually with Deorr the whole time.
Say, if there was an accident, what would you think would have happened to the body?
If it was an accident, I think that because there were traces of blood and fluids, etc. And this is confirmed by Vernal's dad, FBI, to the investigators, and the investigators and the police department, that there were blood evidence on the back of the wheel well, tailpipe area, and bumper. I personally think, and I used to think it always happened at home, to be honest with you, because of that lug nut story. But I'm keeping open, what if it happened at camp? If it happened at camp, I think he backed up over him on accident. I think him and Jess had a fight, and he hopped in the truck to go somewhere and didn't realize Deorr was back there. And maybe he didn't see Deorr. Maybe Deorr was in the tailpipe area hiding from Dad, in the wheel well. I see pictures of it all the time. So, however, when FBI had gotten the truck, they claimed that it was washed good enough to where they couldn't figure out whether it was human blood or not. But luminol did light it up.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a possibility that it could have happened, and then when they went to town.
Yeah.
That's when the tampon story came out. Give them a reason to go right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, that tampons are really good for wounds too. So. It's kind of, the case is kind of all over the place, but the more you sit on the narrow story of, you take the original story and you start putting all the pieces together, it doesn't look too good.
Right.
Yeah.
And I am told by credible sources, and also like the behavior panel did a analysis on their first interview. I do believe that Jessica was scared of Vernal. And, the more that I watched that first interview that they did, it makes sense. She's been the quietest person out of the whole case. Why would you throw him under the bus like that if he didn't do that? You know what I mean? If he went to the creek with you. I could tell you one thing, that I have an audio. Vernal does not like camping. He hates fishing. He didn't want to be there. He came up with every excuse he could to get out of camping and go home. So he was not a happy person being there, period. As much as he looks like he was like, oh, it's a camping trip. No, he did not want to be there. He was very upset about it the whole time. So, and and with just being scared of Vernal, I look at him and I'm like, God, he's so tiny. I could just why? But I mean, I don't know the relationship or what it was like, but I can see that she was possibly scared of Vernal and maybe had something against her, kind of scared, or maybe he was more physically abusive than we all know about.
Right.
These are factors to play in. Oh, and I am getting new wind, and I have to throw this in there. I am in contact with Deorr's daycare worker recently, and even the daycare owner. The day that Jessica says that Deorr was with her all day, Wednesday, July 8th, is actually when all the lies start. You have Deorr supposedly in daycare all day, until like late afternoon, evening. In Jessica's written statement, she's got Deorr all day. There's no way he can be in two different places at once.
Right.
So there's no proof of this. I've asked us because the daycare had closed down about 6 months after. There's no more paperwork on it, and there's no proof. But I did ask, if this ever went to court, are you willing to testify? And they both said yes. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wanted to make sure I had something to lean on, like, hey, would you be willing to testify? That's almost as good as, something. So,
oh, yeah.
That kind of changes everything starting on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Where does besides Philip Klein being back on the case, where does the case stand today? What's the latest today as far as, you're talking about the daycare? Is there anything that's out there that, that hadn't really come out in the public yet that you know of?
Trying to think. There's a lot of details, but yeah, the daycare is one of the ones that's definitely new.
How long ago was that when you found out about the daycare?
And within the last couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is new.
That is very new,
Yeah. And I guess that no, I have to say last year, I was in contact with the daycare worker. Why? Because I contacted Sheriff Penner. She said she was so concerned because she knew Vernal personally, and that she was confused on why they had an apartment in Idaho Falls. So because he lived with his dad in Montpelier, and that's where the daycare was. So with that, I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? Like, okay, so where is the living situations, and how does this work? Why is this daycare way down there, and why is he there on the day of, and how does this work? So I contacted Sheriff Penner, and I said, hey, do you mind, looking up that statement? She said she made it soon after. This is a credible witness, and so he was going to look for it, and I contacted him 2 days ago, and I guess he found it and then refiled it. But he needs his prosecuting attorney to be able to say that that's releasable as well. So yesterday I was able to contact the daycare worker, and she's actually going to retract her own statement and bypass the attorney. So I'm waiting for that. I probably won't make that public, because it's, depending on what's in the statement. The only thing I really need out of that is, was he in daycare on Wednesday? And then I'm just now learning within this week their living situations. So Vernal actually lived with his dad all the way up to the camping trip in Montpelier. Jessica and him had gotten in a fight at some point, and Jessica had recently moved into the apartment that she was in, which was a house, and above the basement where she lived, her aunt lived. And Vernal would go there often and stay the night, and Jessica would make frequent trips to Montpelier to either pick up Deorr or do something of the sort. So their living situations, they weren't actually living together.
So how far apart is that?
An hour and a half at least.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So Idaho Falls to Montpelier, it's, Montpelier is about an hour and a half southeast of their apartment.
Oh, so that's a pretty good way.
And so, that wasn't even known to the investigator. So I had asked that too. I was like, did you know this? Like, no, I did not. So I'm kind of glad that, I got a little push from a couple of YouTubers that I'm in contact with, and one I do videos with, and one I'm just, helping getting going. And with these two creators and, a couple of my really great co-partners in crime, have really pushed me to do more digging and more questioning. And, with this, I'm also strengthening my timeline that I did, making sure that there's links to follow with it, adding things that weren't there before. And I'm getting that together right now, and we'll be presenting that soon. Currently, the timeline in their own words is on the site, but I'm making it better.
So I've been looking at it the whole time. It's really crazy.
Yeah, I've been sitting here going through your website.
Yeah, me too.
And let me know if it's confusing, because, when I look at it, some people didn't know there was more than the homepage, and I'm like, there's a tab button.
Oh, there's a lot of tabs and a lot of drop downs too, yeah.
Yeah. And I try to keep everything separate for their own little thing.
Yeah. We will definitely put a link to your website in the show notes and on our Facebook page and our website and stuff, and especially to donate to Philip Klein's travel cost.
Yeah, we're halfway there. It took a little while, but the cool thing is that here's the thing: even if we didn't raise the rest of the travel costs, Klein's not gonna. He's not going to drop the case. This kiddo keeps him up at night like it does for everybody that really cares. And so he did not have to take the case last year before the funds were raised, but he did anyways. And I can't tell you how thankful I am for that, because this guy was here in the beginning and he knows a lot more than some people. And for him to have those searches that he wanted to cross off not done, we're able to get him back on the case to finish what he started.
That's awesome.
And, I look forward to his updates. And there are some updates I do get that I can't share publicly, and that's okay with me, as long as he's doing his job and stuff. But I think it would be fair, even though this is his second time and people say, hey, why doesn't he do it for free? Well, how many times does he really need to do things for free?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got $20,000 last time, but that was travel costs still. And after that, it was every penny of his own, no matter how much it really did cost him, whether it was $10 or $100,000, it's his own money. So this time, kind of with me helping him, with the travel costs, it's my goal to finish what was asked of him. You know what I mean? I don't think it's fair for him to cover it all on his own. And the thing is he's not the only one going up there. It's his team, himself. He's also got Tracy Sargent. He's got to fly her and her dog out wherever they go. And they're from Texas and the East Coast. I don't know where Tracy Sargent's from, but this is a lot of travel. You got airfare, you got food, gas, rental cars, you've got, lodging, you just got all of that. And I think $20,000, that's not even going to touch the surface of all the flight costs themselves.
No, it wouldn't last long at all.
So I just think that's fair, and you can definitely find that in the website on a lot of pages, his GoFundMe link. But as far as like anything new, we're figuring out their living situations that weren't necessarily correct or known in the past. We now know that Deorr was in daycare all day, and not with his mom all day. It's changing the timeline.
Yeah.
And when that happens, that changes the whole story.
Yes.
All right, Callie, I'm going to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Do you think, according to your website and title of your website, do you think there'll ever be justice for baby Deorr?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I think she's kicking
Absolutely.
ass. Yeah. I think you are kicking ass.
Yeah,
It's amazing how much work you've put into this.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you
quite
so much.
impressed, and I appreciate you being on the show and taking time out to do this for us and to help get keep the word out for baby Deorr.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Yeah. Totally. And I appreciate you guys reaching out to keep his name out there. The more the better.
Yeah, we love it. We love to help and do whatever we can.
That's right.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much.
Well, Callie, we appreciate you being on the show today. And
is there anything else you want to say, or do we don't want to try to cut you off when you got something else to say?
yeah, now's time. Now's time to say it.
Yeah, do it now.
I have faith in this case. Time might not be on our side, but I'm accepting that now. But I do absolutely feel that this case is solvable and that it will be solved someday soon.
Well, good.
Well,
I hope so too.
Yeah, you know more than we do about it, and that's why we had you on the show. So if you're confident, then I'm confident in you too.
Yeah.
And you telling us that. That's awesome.
Yeah, very much.
Well, Callie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Dale.
All right.
Again, we want to thank Callie for being on the show. Man.
Wow.
Yeah, she knows her stuff.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
What a pleasure, man.
Yeah. I can't thank her enough.
She is really kicking ass and doing everything. She is so proactive. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yep.
Wow.
Like I said, we're going to put a link to her website and Facebook page on the show notes for this and on our website and on our Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
All that stuff.
Yep. But other than that, dude, we are going to get out of here, man.
All right, man. It was a good one. I've had a wonderful time. It was really refreshing, man.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
All
All
right.
right, let's roll, brother.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.